What is going on, everyone? It's time for episode 2 of Out of Bounds here on the Know Your News Network. John Alba, Mia O'Brien, coming at you on your second Monday happy hour. What's going on, everyone? Mia, how you doing tonight?
Hanging in there. A wild weekend with regards to the Mia O'Brien Super Bowl. That, of course, being the crossover between the hometown Jacksonville Jaguars and the New York Football Giants. So, running on a little bit of sleep, but feeling excited and was very much in need of this. So, ready to spend another wonderful Monday happy hour with you, John.
Yes, it is a Monday happy hour. It's a happy time for all of us here on the Know Your News Network. We're very excited that you're joining us here for episode 2 of Out of Bounds. Last week, we brought you our premiere. It's a look at the fun side of sports, the weird, the wacky, the wild, and everything in between. We had a lot of fun last week, Mia. How'd you feel about it a week out?
I did. You know what? Like I said, it's like every conversation we have ever had, whether that's at 2 a.m. as I'm driving back from Ames, Iowa with a concussion suffered at the hands of Alan Lazard, to just
happen.
us shooting the ish in Asbury Park at a bar.
Yes.
So that's what I hope the listeners take away from this.
Yes. And every week we have an opening toast here, but we also pay up our weekly wager, which you'll hear at the end of this show. But last week, Mia, you were the one who put forth the wager. And if you could remind me, what was it?
Yes, it was the winner of the Jaguars Giants game, with myself representing the Jaguars, John representing the Giants. The winner would then have to force the loser to drink hot sauce straight out of a glass. And so,
how'd that game play out?
Thank you, Christian Kirk, for not getting me 2 extra yards. That would have been nice. We also can blame the defense for giving up over 100 yards to both Saquon Barkley and Danny Dimes.
It was the most excruciating finish of a game I've ever seen in person.
Welcome to every Jaguars game for much of the past 28 years.
They knew that we had a wager going on that finish, and they decided to draw it out and make it as painful as possible. But so Mia, before you do it, what hot sauce will you be drinking here?
So I have Red's Hot, which I actually have the bottle over there, but it's too far away for me to grab. But yes, I have put it
now. It's in a shot glass.
So actually, it's a beer tasting glass.
That's very on brand.
Courtesy of our good friends at New Glarus Brewing in Wisconsin.
Okay. Now,
so if you've ever heard of the infamous Spotted Cow?
I've got a surprise for you before you take that.
Oh,
shot.
okay.
You see, here's the thing, Mia. And for all of our audience here, and if you want to leave us a super chat, by the way, you can post it right here on YouTube, kynchats.com as well, and we'll read your super chat on air. That's how you can get involved with the show. But I got a surprise for you, Mia. See, everyone listening?
Lay it on me.
Tomorrow is Mia O'Brien's 30th birthday.
Oh, boy.
It's true. It's
yes.
big.
Sad.
And I wanted to not make you feel excluded here. So even though you lost the wager, I'm going to do it with you. I'm going to do shot.
What a trooper.
And I'm going to make it even more hardcore because this is hotter than what you're taking. Yeah. And I'm going to do it straight from the bottle. This is called...
I mean, I can do it straight from the bottle.
That's
I'm not
okay.
Gonna lie,
you don't
though.
have to.
It takes a while to get the reds out of...
Well, yeah, that's like medium thick right there. But this is appropriately Adam's apple, which is an apple habanero hot sauce that we're going to do... we're going to pay up here, and I'm going to do this a little much. I'm going to take a straight shot.
So we got to also preface this toast, this wager being paid up with this. I also did the Taco Bell $28 challenge earlier this week. Unsuccessful, folks.
Yes.
However, the biggest thing that my co-hosts on my day job, XL Primetime, 1010XL 92.5 FM, were worried about was the Diablo sauce. And I was like, boys.
No, that's easy.
Sauce is easy.
That's easy. But I've never tasted this. I have no idea how it is. It has habaneros in it. We'll see how it goes. Happy birthday to you, Mia. I'm paying this up with you. Here we go. Ready?
Cheers, friend.
Cheers.
Oh, boy. Yep. How was that?
Woo! I'll tell you what. That is delicious. I mean, I don't think you're supposed to drink hot sauce just straight up from a bottle like that. Like Frank's, you're certainly not supposed to either.
Nope. But that's okay. It's definitely the texture.
Did you get it down?
I'm about to finish it. We're gonna blame the
tonsils.
Off.
And then I'll do our actual opening toast because we do an actual opening toast every week. And that, Mia, is to your 30th birthday. So a cheers to you on your 30th birthday. Wash it all down. Wash the hot sauce down. Here we go.
Woo!
Little
Cranberry
JMO.
juice and hot sauce. Hot sauce. Yes, exactly.
Well,
my tongue's feeling.
We'll do another weekly wager at the end of the episode, and I will pose it to you next week. But let's get things started here, Mia O'Brien. And as apropos with the college football season, we've got an Aaron Judge cut-in. Okay. Aaron Judge makes the final out of the ALCS for the New York Yankees against the Houston Astros. And with that, a clean sweep at the hands of the Houston Astros for the New York Yankees. Boy, it's not what you want, Mia. Aaron Judge turned down a 7-year, $213 million extension at the beginning of the season, an all-time bet-on-yourself moment, and it paid off. 62 home runs, one of the greatest seasons ever. But what would Aaron Judge's incentive be to re-sign with a Yankees team that got mutilated in the ALCS? I haven't seen an embarrassment like this in quite some time in baseball.
Well, they not only got mutilated, and then their manager and their GM basically defended their decisions in terms of how they constructed the lineup, how they constructed their bullpen for the postseason. And granted, they were hit by the injury bug in September. And as I know you noted multiple times on Twitter, names like DJ LeMahieu and Andrew Benintendi may have helped that lineup. But at the end of the day, this is a team that limped through the second half of the season. And quite frankly, like my view of Aaron Judge and the Yankees has really changed ever since The Captain, the ESPN Plus documentary came out a few months ago. Knowing then, hearing a firsthand account from Derek Jeter, the conversations that went on with him, arguably one of the greatest top 10 Yankees of all time, if not top 5, and the way that he was disrespected, for lack of a better term. And so that's why, knowing that that is how they treated Derek Jeter, how are they going to treat someone who is 6'7", excuse me, and potentially could have injuries down the line? He's had injuries throughout the course of his career. And so, no, I mean, I quite frankly have no hope. Just like I have no hope in the ALCS.
No hope
I have no hope in Brian Cashman re-signing Aaron Judge at this time. I also want to note, real quick, from The Captain, one of my favorite moments was when the Steinbrenner sons didn't have Derek Jeter's number. In my opinion, that's all you need to know about what's going on. And that is
encompassing of what has been going on with the. And it's funny because you'll hear so many people be like, "It's the Yankees. What do you got to whine about? 27 World Championships." When you have that many championships, there comes an expectation that you will compete year in and year out, and not just compete. You will be among the elite teams in baseball. And yeah, they made it to the Final Four, but there's a clear disparity between
they spend
the top
how much
stars.
money? Like they're supposed to be there.
But instead you have these excuses where the New York Yankees struck out 50 times in this series, and the excuse is, well, they're putting up a couple good at-bats up there. Oh, I think I'm registering a couple hits. You have a franchise that's saying, oh, we know that Josh Donaldson's a better player than Giovanni Urshela, where Giovanni Urshela goes out this year and quite frankly whoops Josh Donaldson's candy ass all over the place. So when Aaron Judge comes,
and that's just at the plate. That's not talking defensively either.
Defensively, they're both pretty good. But what this all comes down to is there is this holier than thou mentality within the Yankees upper brass right now that, quite frankly, if I'm a superstar, is very off-putting. Sure, they can afford to pay me a lot of money, but what is my incentive to go to a franchise where there is continuously this standard of we'll make a couple adjustments and see how much further it gets us? That's not what it takes to win when you've been stagnant for the better part of 13 years. And if I'm a superstar, even if I'm Aaron Judge, who's the closest thing to Derek Jeter the Yankees have had, what is my incentive to re-sign?
Especially if the manager remains. And I know that that is a point of contention that you have had throughout the course of the last few weeks. And I'm very curious I think Aaron Judge and Aaron Boone have a decent relationship, but knowing that Aaron Boone is largely a pawn in this Yankee machine, and he's essentially he was hired because he can talk to the media and because he can listen to what Brian Cashman and the analytics team tell him to do. And so that's what I'm very curious to see, is if he opts for a different route. And also I enjoyed your it's not what you want, considering the guy who coined the phrase, former Yankees manager Joe Girardi, now former Phillies manager, is watching his other former team play in the World Series this fall.
Yeah, he is doing that.
What fun. Really great few months to be a Yankee, man.
No, but I want to bring up the point here. Like, Aaron Judge was this big hoopla this season, right? Do you think that they overdid it with Aaron Judge this year? Because there are people...
Not at all.
There are people who, outside of the New York market or outside of that fandom, who say, well, I don't need to be watching my Appalachian State college football game and seeing Aaron Judge cut-ins. Did they overdo it this year, in your opinion?
No, because we haven't seen anyone hit over 60 home runs in how many years? Since 1998? No, since Barry Bonds, so 2001, if you want to count that, which I know there are some of you out there who don't. So, yeah, so that's the better part of 21 years. So, yes, I'm glad that they blew it up the way they did, because your other superstar in Major League Baseball, Mike Trout, plays on the West Coast for a crappy team that also claims to spend money, but no one watches them unless you stay up till 2 a.m. every day watching them.
And it's about time that baseball figures out how to market a superstar.
And he's in New York. It should be easy. It literally should be easy, John. And yet they continue to make it hard. And that's just what I don't understand. Like, I mean, listen, like I said, it's a great bet on yourself story. And we're seeing that happen in a variety of different sports right now.
Is it the greatest contract year ever in the history of sports?
No.
I know you'd have to like rack your brain for specific ones, but I don't see how it's not.
There's somebody else.
He increased his value by $100+
Oh,
million.
yeah. No. I mean, it's easily, but who was the recent one? I forget what sport it was. Someone in our comments, one of our super chats, please fill me in. Who else in the last year has bet on themselves? And
not at the success level that Aaron Judge did, in my opinion.
No, Lamar. I was thinking about Lamar. And even
Lamar, but even
Lamar's
that wasn't...
tailed off in the last 3 weeks. And Aaron Judge, aside from when he got to the postseason, never truly tailed off. Even when the Yankees had their tail spin in the month of August, Aaron Judge was the one thing keeping them afloat.
Yes, and I think he exerted a little bit too much. So you could argue that Aaron Judge is what's out, but Mia, I think you're about to tell us what's in.
Yeah, so the Padres, the yellow and brown, they're out. The Phillies are in. Red October. Get ready, America. They did the damn thing with an interim manager, technically. Even though they've extended him, right? Technically now they've given him the full-time.
Rob Thompson's sticking around.
Yeah, they gave him the job. I mean, you go to the World Series, I mean, you deserve to get a full-time job. But yeah, so in case you guys missed it, were they Padres employees or fans?
No, they're just fans.
So these Padres fans made this music video when they were playing the Dodgers in the NLDS.
This is after the NLDS.
So it was right after.
They are on air on live TV on the news, Mia, and they sing this song.
I thought this was pre-recorded.
No, this is live. We're live, pal.
Do you miss being in local news these moments, John?
For something like this, yes. It's a group of diehard Padres fans. They appear on KUSI in San Diego, and they proclaimed victory over the Phillies before the NLCS started by singing a song that goes something akin to this. Philly going down to yellow and brown. That's what's in. That's what's in. Padres on the loose. Let's go goose. That's what's in. That's what's in. Bryce gonna lose and Manny's gonna cruise. That's what's in. That's what's in. Give Philly no slack and send them back. That's what's in. So yeah, this is brutal.
Well, the best part was that they made that song, everyone crushed them, and then they did it again.
They did it again, and then how'd the series play out?
It did not work out.
Were the Padres doomed from the moment this song went viral? Is my question for you.
Yes, it completely reversed the goose. The goose gave them all the good vibes.
The goose was our boy.
They should have stuck to the animal, and instead they decided they had to attempt to go viral with something that wasn't organic. It was. I don't know what that was. But no, from the moment that music video dropped, everyone knew they were cursed. But beyond that, I do think the Phillies are playing we are seeing with the Philadelphia Phillies what we saw with the Atlanta Braves last year, a team that at the midway point of the season didn't know who they were, didn't know what they were. Hell, their manager got fired. And then they just got hot at the right time. And at the end of the day, that's all you need. It's, baseball, yes, it's 5-game or 3-game now in the wild card, 5-game, 7-game series. But at the same time, it's kind of akin to the NCAA tournament and the big dance in that if you can get hot, you can progress through this other dance, if you may.
Yeah, and you've got the hottest team in baseball against by far away the best team in baseball in the World Series, and I think that's awesome for the game. But yeah, I'm not one to believe in the...
Wait. Did you just say the Astros are the best team in baseball? Well, those columnists with the LA Times about the Dodgers that they wrote that the Dodgers should have just gotten a free pass right to the NLCS. Will they take issue with that?
That didn't work out for them. So
they should have just it was historic though, John. Just like
it was.
Aaron Judge's season was historic. We should have just let him go to the World Series.
Listen, I'm not superstitious. I'm a little stitious. But I do believe that this Padres team, which consists of two bona fide stars, Manny Machado and
And
Juan
a
Soto,
team that also, for what it's worth, as we talk about the New York Yankees, that's a franchise that went all in. Like
they did.
they
They
pushed all
did.
their cards to the middle of the table.
I do believe that the moment that these Padres dads, the Padres, the moment that they dropped this little song that became a faux rallying call, I believe that was it. It
So
was over.
oh yeah, there's no question. All the goodwill of the goose was gone. So John, I know you are very high on the Astros, but I mean, you just said it. This Phillies team,
They're red
I
hot.
mean, no one can pitch to them right now. Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, it looked like turn back the clock to 2017 right now for both of those guys. So what are your expectations for the Fall Classic?
I think that it is going to be a very fun World Series. I hope the layoff between games doesn't screw up the mojo for either of these teams because it can. It certainly can. Keep in mind, the Phillies have been going gung ho here from the wild card round straight all the way through. I think that this one is going at least 6 games. I do believe the Phillies have the offense that counteracts that extremely consistent pitching across rotation and bullpen that we've seen from the Astros. The one thing is, if Philly makes mistakes, that's it, because this Astros team makes you pay for mistakes like no team I've ever seen before. So, all in all, I'm going with the Astros in 6. What say you, Mia?
I'm just rooting for a 6 or a 7 game series because wait for it, John. Game 6 and game 7 would be next Friday, Saturday, Thursday night football in Houston, Philadelphia Eagles at the Houston Texans.
Well, one of those games will be better than the other. That
Yes.
is.
Oh, the baseball will obviously be better, but at the same time, like I just think that will add to the allure.
Well,
And
who
the
are you picking? You
storylines.
got to pick one.
Yeah, I'm going with the Phillies. Same
Go the
reason.
Phillies.
Same reason the Braves won last year. As much as the old saying goes, offense sells tickets, defense wins championships, and the Astros pitching has obviously proven that it is championship caliber over the last few weeks of the postseason. At the same time, I just think Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber are on another level. I think that the starting rotation for the Phillies has surprised a lot of people, and I would expect more of the same. I think Aaron Nola is pitching at an elite level as well, and so I'm going to go with the Phillies in 7.
Phillies in 7. Okay.
Yes,
I wouldn't be upset.
I would like 7 games.
I wouldn't be upset about it. Listen, the Astros have become the true heels of Major League Baseball, but I do love Dusty Baker, and I would love to see Dusty Baker win one. I think that would be great.
That's true. I do agree. That would be a very nice character arc for a man who wasn't involved in the scandal, but then, of course, got dragged through the mud for it.
And he's
also
been
did.
awesome,
I will
so.
say this: I did take a little bit of solace in Jose Altuve just being awful throughout the course of this
but he
postseason.
came through in the game that eliminated the Yankees. So
Yeah, well,
that's
listen,
for
that
sure.
was happening regardless. So I had accepted my fate. I just didn't know who would be
That's
laying the hammer. It just so happened
That's
it was
fair.
him, but he was 0 for 27 or whatever it was
That's
at
true.
one point. So I'll take
All
that.
right, Mia, let's transition into my favorite football league, the XFL, of course, because this was a bright.
Tampa Bay Rowdies, right? That's what they're called?
Well,
that
no,
USFL?
the Rowdies are the soccer team.
No, so then what was Vipers?
The Vipers, correct.
Yes, that's what it is.
Yes. But Orlando's getting a new XFL team. But that's besides the point,
okay.
yes. So we love the XFL in this house. No doubt about that. And it was a big weekend for XFL greats like PJ Walker, for example, Taylor Heineke. And why was it a big weekend?
The Green Lizard.
Yes, the Green Lizard. Why was it a big weekend? Well, the rough years are continuing for Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, Mia. PJ Walker of XFL fame and the Panthers, who are now without Christian McCaffrey, took down the Bucs 21-3 with Walker going 16 for 22 with 2 scores, while Heineke threw for 20 of 33, 2 touchdowns and a pick and route to a 23-21 win over Green Bay with his Washington Commanders. Green Bay and Tampa are 3-4. The New York Football Giants 6-1. The Jets 5-2. I see this argument all the time on social media, and you can let us know with your super chats. By the way, send them in the chat. We'll get them on air. Is this too much parity for the NFL?
Not at all. Not at all. Although I will say this, like I honestly came away from this weekend, and maybe it's because I'm like so in the weeds on Sundays. But I just came away and I was like, who won? Like who do I care about? Oh, it's the Chiefs and everybody else. Okay, cool. Cool. I mean, granted, we had a lot of teams on buys this week, including the Bills and the Eagles, who are right up there with the Chiefs in terms of being in a different stratosphere than 90% of the league. But at the same time, like I just came away from this weekend and was like, oh, Carolina just had a fire sale, just fired its head coach, just got rid of its best player. and they came out and won a game with PJ Walker, XFL legend, as their quarterback. Well, that's fun. But then I was like, well, I mean, if nothing else, it makes what's already a dog crap NFC even more of a dog fight. And it gives more teams a chance. I wish the AFC could say the same. And then the Jaguars at 2-5, all hope would not be lost. But at the same time, like I enjoy the storylines. I enjoy the storylines. And you want to know what else I really much enjoy, John? And I don't want to jump ahead to our next topic, but I think they're kind of interrelated. And that is this concept of it is a quarterback-driven league, which that I 100% agree with, because you're seeing with Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow throwing for over 400 yards and on pace for like 800 at one point in that game. What you are seeing is, because it's a quarterback-driven league, you're seeing teams that just unnecessarily make moves because they need this quarterback or that quarterback because he was good once upon a time, and therefore
that's talking about Matt Ryan by chance?
No. Matt Ryan, I want to table that because we know I love talking about Jim Irsay. So we're going to table that because we're going to get back to Matt Ryan and Sam Ehlinger and that Nick Foles, who's also making $2 million to ride the pine out in Indianapolis. But no, I more so want to talk about Carson Wentz.
Okay.
Because a couple of my friends that were here this weekend for my birthday celebration are Washington fans. And knowing the capital they gave up for Carson Wentz in Washington, knowing that Taylor Heineke, listen, he's not an elite quarterback, but he got the job done. He got the job done last year in spot. I mean, he got thrown into the fire.
Yep.
At that point, their wide receiving core is halfway decent. You got Terry McLaurin, who is an underrated receiver in this league. You've got other pieces. Like it's not like he's like, playing with a bunch of backups here. Like, listen to this list of playmakers, right? So they've got Terry, they've got Curtis Samuel, who's a do-it-all guy if you ever saw one. Antonio Gibson out of Memphis originally, who's now seen more of like a receiving back role because Brian Robinson, the former Alabama running back, has really taken the reins. J.D. McKissick has been in the league seemingly forever. So there's pieces. And then you have a defense that they obviously were banking on with Chase Young, granted coming off the ACL tear that he still hasn't returned from yet. But you've got multiple first-round picks along that front four. So my point in saying all this is that why weren't you just starting Heineke to begin with? Why didn't you save that second and third round draft pick, the conditional, third round pick that you used for Carson Wentz to, fortify the offensive line, get a decent defensive back, because that's what's been burning them besides Carson Wentz the first 6 weeks of the season. And so I don't know. Listen, the Green Lizard, it could be a flash in the pan like it was at times 2 years ago when they made the playoffs in Washington. But that's a situation where I look at it and I say, like, did you really need to go get a quarterback just because of his name?
Well, maybe this ties into the general topic of what we're saying here, where parity, I think fans generally enjoy parity, generally speaking, unless they tie it to
we root for an underdog. Yeah, we root for an underdog.
But,
it's America.
Sure. I think fans generally enjoy that. But I would argue that leagues don't love that, because I think a league loves, from a marketing standpoint, when they say, oh, we know this year that the Packers are going to be good. We know this year that the Patriots are going to be good. We know this year that so-and-so are going to be good. So we're going to schedule our Sunday night and our Monday night primetime football games to feature
when the Broncos are good, right, John?
Right. Russell Wilson comes to the Broncos. They're going to be great. Well, we see what's happening there. So I think that the leagues, the entities, probably discourage parity a little more. But for fans, we like the madness. We like when you take a concept and throw it entirely out the window. And yeah, we know that the Giants were supposed to be booty this year. This is a rebuilding year. The Jets are supposed to be a couple years off.
Well, the Jets, I will say that the Jets are truly a quarterback away, which is a scary thought. Obviously now the awful news this morning that both Breece Hall and Elijah Vera Tucker are out, and that's unfortunate. But the Jets at least are in year 2 of Robert Saleh, so I expected them to take some sort of step.
But nobody is expecting them to be 5-2 at this point.
That's
and
correct.
Nobody's expecting the Giants.
No one expected the Broncos to be 2-5, though.
No one expected Geno Smith to be leading the Seattle Seahawks.
Favorite storyline of the year.
To probably an NFC West championship. It's a very real possibility that these things can happen. So I think parity is a good thing. And I'll tell you what, it does suck for Tom Brady. It does suck for Aaron Rodgers. We don't like to see guys' careers end like this. And I will say, even as we talked last week, maybe it's a little self-inflicted for both of these guys, especially Brady coming back when he retired.
Right.
But maybe it inspires Brady to come back another year somewhere else.
I mean, what else is he playing for at this point? His family
Right.
left him. So,
You
I
really
mean,
like the
and that's
punch
where
there.
like Aaron Rodgers' family left him a long, long time ago. So,
Oh my
Aaron
goodness.
Rodgers, I feel for. I do feel for Aaron Rodgers because similar to Russell Wilson when he was in Seattle, although now we're finding out maybe Russell was the problem all along. Hi, it's me. He's the problem. I should make that a TikTok. But poor Tom Brady, like it's just a perfect storm. Like they say, when it rains, it pours. I mean, this man get divorced. His offensive line, like from the moment training camp opened, there was injuries. Mike Evans can't catch a cold right now, except he can sign autographs for referees. So yeah, no, it's different. Like I feel bad for Aaron Rodgers because it's malpractice that they didn't draft. Well, they drafted Christian Watson, but the fact that they did not build around him properly. Tom Brady, it's just circumstantial, and I believe it's karma. But Aaron Rodgers, like I do feel bad that he came back. He's like, hey, like, can you do this? Can you do that? And they're like, oh yeah. Here's your number one wide receiver, a 38-year-old Randall Cobb and Alan Lazard, and also a couple rookies. Have fun. And
Yeah,
that's
but
not like
here's the thing with Rodgers. He should have seen that writing on the wall, and he should demand a trade to get out of there.
Right.
That's and guess what? When a guy with Aaron Rodgers' stature demands a trade, you have to trade him.
Right.
So he easily could have forced his way out of there, and he didn't. Whereas with the with the Bucks, this is Brady's own doing here. And I understand when you're a competitor, it's hard to let go. It's really hard to let go. I say this all the time with broadcasting, and it carries over to sports probably even more so. Ego is involved, and that doesn't necessarily need to be in a negative context. We all have an ego because we get fulfillment from whatever we're doing. Fulfillment is what gets us through each day. Tom Brady probably felt that he would not feel fulfilled if he had stepped away at that point in time. I get it. But clearly, after not winning the Super Bowl last year, there's some cracks in that foundation there in Tampa. And now he finds himself more frustrated than ever. And I think he's going to come back next year and play for somebody else.
For somebody else?
Yeah, I think he's going to play for somebody else.
Who?
I think he will have his pick of a landing space where a team like, say, maybe the 49ers, who doesn't want Jimmy G, and they kind of are knocking on the door there in San Francisco, are like, all right.
Kind of. I mean, they just traded for Christian McCaffrey.
Well, right. But I'm saying, so like they see that window open, so they say, all right, we'll give you 1 year, Tom Brady. We'll do that. But that brings us to the point of old quarterbacks.
Yes.
That's what I want to talk about. So we see these teams giving up all these crazy assets. The Denver Broncos basically gave up their stadium to acquire Russell Wilson this past offseason.
And now they're wishing that they could trade it all back to get Drew Lock.
Matt
Ryan
is clearly on the back end of his career and is not going to be a contributor for Indianapolis going forward this season as things stand right now. This is a trend that we started seeing probably about 8 years ago, where you take the big bet on the aging quarterback. Why are teams making this bet on themselves that it will pay off? Is it just because Peyton Manning was successful in doing it? Is it just because Tom Brady was successful in doing it? Those two examples? But those are elite of the most elite examples. They're outliers. Are they not?
I think they are, but many people thought Russell Wilson was in that category with them. Another Super Bowl champion. I'm not sure he's a Hall of Famer. After his performance so far this season, he definitely isn't, even with a Walter Payton Man of the Year and a Super Bowl title and an MVP. And I with Russell, it's one thing because they truly, I think, especially the folks out in Denver, because they were the ones who acquired Peyton Manning when he was released, traded by the Colts, sent off to pasture, left for dead. And so I think that they were like, oh, like we've done this once before, we'll do it again with a completely different quarterback, number one, and number two, a completely different style of quarterback. And yes, they obviously had the playmakers in place already, similar to when Peyton arrived in Denver. To an extent, they were super high on obviously their young wide receiving core, who now they are reportedly shopping some of them. Their defense, I do believe, is elite. I do think that Patrick Surtain is a top 5 corner in the league right now. I think Bradley Chubb and that pass rush have been sneaky good. I'm actually kind of concerned for the Jaguars when they go across the pond to face the Broncos in London and go against that defense. But the bigger thing, the reason it worked for Peyton to go to Denver and for Tom to go to Tampa was because part of why they left was that they wanted more of a say in how the roster was constructed, and how the team operated. And as we heard, when Tom Brady went down to Tampa, the culture in Tampa changed in an instant.
Mm-hmm.
When Peyton Manning went to Denver, the culture changed in an instant. We heard that, yes, during the offseason with Russell Wilson, but game 1 against Geno Smith, against his old team, Seattle, when he could have stepped up to the plate and taken ownership, called a timeout because his first-year head coach was floundering on the sideline and didn't know what the time was on the clock, he could have taken ownership and leadership in a situation that a Tom Brady or a Peyton Manning would have. And that is why, in that moment, I knew, well, I guess we can't really consider Russ in the conversation with the Peytons and with the Tom Bradys of the world. And I don't think we could before, but now we really couldn't. And it's only gotten worse as the weeks have gone on.
But to make a decision like this, like what the Colts made, acquiring Matt
Ryan. They've done that 4 years in a row, buddy boy.
I understand that. Ever since they were blindsided by Andrew Luck retiring, they have been trying to plug in pieces. But when you're giving up capital, legitimate draft capital, and you're giving up assets to get these aging quarterbacks, you have to be on the brink of winning a championship. Mm-hmm. It is a plug in and play when you acquire one of these aging quarterbacks. And some of them may still have something left. Peyton Manning, keep in mind,
they didn't have a neck.
They had 2 Super Bowl appearances with Peyton Manning, and they lost the first one. And Peyton was much better that season. But it was the second one where he actually wasn't very good at all that they won.
No, we called my friends and I in Iowa, shout out, the Les brothers, we called it the wobble. Whenever Peyton would drop, because they're huge Bronco fans, whenever Peyton would drop back, that was when the wobble, the dance, like when that was really popular.
And that's what the ball was doing that.
Yeah, so we would like stand up as he like launched, he would drop back and the 3 of us would stand up on the couch and we'd be the wobble.
My point being, you have to know that you are knocking on the door of a Super Bowl to make a move. Like the Bucks, they were knocking on the door. They said we're a good quarterback away.
Yeah,
and we can
but
do
see,
this.
the Bucks were what, 8-8 the year before he got there.
If you covered that team, and I did cover that team, you knew the pieces were there and they could do it. They just needed.
They also drafted really well,
and they drafted well, and they had a good coach.
Yeah.
So you have those things that come together. So my point being here is just that if you're a team that seriously views himself in contention, like perhaps maybe the 49ers next year, then it's okay to make that move.
Well, that's why I think the Broncos thought they were. The Broncos genuinely thought they were. The Colts are a completely different story. Yeah. They are, Jim Irsay and his little gummy action figures have been putting a Band-Aid on a bullet hole for the past 5 years.
Oh boy. Well, guys, if you want to have some fun with us here on Out of Bounds, I encourage you head on into YouTube where you can leave your super chat, or you can go to kynchat.com, leave a Know Your News chat before or during a live stream, and you can get it read on air during the course of this conversation. Now, Mia, I'm going to throw up a tweet here.
Oh.
And I want you to tell us what happened. And this is from New York Giants beat writer Art Stapleton.
We're pivoting. Wait, can I go to the Colts first? We already got Art Stapleton up.
I mean, we can if you want.
Let's go to the Colts real quick. I'm going to throw a tweet at you. This is from how do you pronounce? As you know how I have issues with pronunciations. SPOTRAC.
SPO.
It's a sports financial service.
Sport Rack?
Spotrac. You call it Spotrac or Spotrac?
I'm not sure.
Okay, they're the ones that crunch the numbers when it comes to salary. Since 2018, the Colts have spent $145 million in cash for 12 different quarterbacks. That includes the likes of Brad Kaya, Brian Hoyer, Chad Kelly, Jacoby Brissett, Jacob Eason, Sam Ellinger, Brett Hundley, Nick Foles, who I mentioned, $2.6 million this year for riding the bench and being a healthy scratch. Carson Wentz, of course, Phillip Rivers, and then Andrew Luck. What a time.
How about that?
Again, it is a Band-Aid over a bullet hole. That is where it's different than the Broncos. You can't fault the Broncos because they thought that they were there. The Colts have thought they were there for 5 years. It still hasn't happened.
They just haven't been. All right, let's get over to this one because we're going to be fired up here. So Art Stapleton, New York Giants beat writer, was at TIAA Bank Field where you were this past weekend. And he noted during the game that there was cheering in the press box, as many Jaguars fans in here than the stands, apparently, he says. Now, on the surface level, people might not resonate with that. But Mia, what would the proper etiquette that we've been taught as sports journalists be as far as
You
press
mean what
box
the old
cheering?
men tell me?
Sure. What
The
is
old men say that you're supposed to not speak to anyone. You're supposed to have your headphones on. It's supposed to be sterile, and you're supposed to not speak or do anything. That's what the old men in the Jags press box say.
Well, that's not what I was taught, and I don't believe that's what you were taught.
Of course it wasn't.
No cheering in the press box.
There's a difference between cheering and reacting. I got yelled at last year for cheering. Okay, you want to know what happened when I got yelled at for cheering? Jamal Agnew had the first 109-yard kick six return in NFL history. All I did, because I am 5'2", which is only slightly taller than Art Stapleton, stood up because I could not see over the light box in front of me. And so I could not see him running along the near sideline. And so I stood up, and I guess I was whispering, go, 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 go. I was cheering for an athletic feat that we have never seen in 105 years of playing professional football in this country. It was not loud. It was simply me standing up because I couldn't see. And then instinctively, just by the nature of watching a spectacle, my body doing that. And I got yelled at for that. I preface all that to say, the media member, there was one that he had issue with. And that media member is a former Super Bowl winning head coach of the Dallas Cowboys in Dave Campo, who works at my station, 1010XL, not as a media mogul. He's not a radio host. He is an analyst that we bring in. He is also, for the first time in 73 years in his life, sitting in the press section of the press box. He sat for 40 years in the other room where they do cheer and they do react. And even then, it's not cheering. I mean, it's cheering when you score and when there's, something good. But primarily, it's simply reacting to good or bad what is happening on the field.
Okay.
So Dave, to be quite frank, because I sit next to him, and Art was sitting behind us, so he clearly, listen, Art, if you're watching this, you could have come up and said hi. I gladly would have talked. Dave would have looked. Dave talks to everyone. He sent me his wife. He had his wife sending me pictures of their Halloween decorations this weekend. Like, very friendly man. But you chose not to. You chose to hide behind a keyboard, which is really unfortunate. So the point is that Coach Campo was frustrated with what is roughing the passer. And so he just let out I don't get it, Mia. What is roughing the passer? He goes, I don't care which team it is. What is it? I just don't get it. Please explain to me when I was and then he went through everything. And then he was frustrated when Doug Peterson went for it on fourth down instead of kicking a field goal. And he said, Mia, excuse my French. When I was coaching, you could put the analytics up here. You know what? Because take the points. I know I'm old school, but that's this is what I see analytics. And
so this was his first time in a press box?
No, this is his first year. So this was his 5th game. And he has been scolded in all 5 games. But to his credit, he then apologizes instantly. He looks around and he goes, I'm sorry.
But you do gotta, it's learned behavior. You do gotta, so, okay, here's how I stand on this, okay? Because, I'm not holier than thou when it comes to this. I understand that. And one thing that I think needs to be acknowledged, whether right or wrong,
is that Art Stapleton is an RB sandwich away from a heart attack.
That is way.
That's not from me. That's from a listener at 1010XL.
That is over the top and unnecessary. I don't agree with that at all. I actually think Art Stapleton is one of the best football writers in the country, but that's besides the point. I think that we see now more than ever fans having blogs or fan-driven websites that cover teams that get access to press boxes. And as a result, some of that is co-mediated, and you see more of that type of behavior. Now, I do not agree with that behavior. I firmly believe that there shouldn't be cheering in a press box, because I do believe a press box is a place of work. Now, I understand the point you're saying, where sometimes because you're consuming the sport, you have a natural reaction to something that happens and you're like, wow, or whatever.
Right.
Personally, I can only speak on personal experience. I have tried to be cognizant of that. And if something incredible happens in front of me, I try to keep my reaction somewhat reserved. But I have seen on the flip side people just straight up screaming. And I understand, like, it's fun, but I do believe the press box is a place of work.
Mhm.
And even if someone is not used to that environment, if they are being told, hey, you got to keep it down, you got to reel it back in, I do think they need to be cognizant of that. Now, did Art have to necessarily go out and blast people on Twitter for that?
No, and
Maybe
like
not
I should know, like even like my co-host on XL Primetime, like they got a kick out of his tweet. They're like, that's a funny line. But more so the fact that he was literally sitting behind us, John.
Sure.
It's not like, how childish do you have to be
But
to hide behind a keyboard as a
I get
60-plus-year-old man?
I get that, but I also saw people in your media market who were defending it, and defending the cheering.
Well,
and
defending in regards to the fact that he made a blanket statement about the media, which is an issue in this country to begin with at large.
That I agree with, but I don't know. I'm never going to be one to defend cheering in the press box. I honestly do think that anyone who does needs to be reprimanded, and you need to put it in another. And I get that there are fans listening to this or watching this who may not understand that at all. But if I were to come into your place of work, not you specifically, I'm saying to the person who's watching this, who can leave us a super chat and leave us their thoughts. If we were to walk into their CPA job and just start yelling and hooting and hollering, it might be a little distracting. It might take away from them writing a column. It might take away from them writing.
My reaction to that. My reaction to that, and anyone that's upset about Dave Campo right now. The man is hard of hearing. He doesn't turn his head. He doesn't turn his head.
I mean this in a general sense.
No, I know. But I'm going to get to your point, because I agree with your point that you're making. However, we will be in a commercial break, and he has just arrived, and he's hugging in everybody, and he's talking to everybody at our studio, and our sports update anchor has to go do the update, or I have to do a commercial read. And everyone in the room is just loudly talking. And you know this more than anybody, John, when you're doing a live shot, and maybe I know I'm not speaking for the CPAs of the world. My father could probably answer that better. But you could be in a live shot and it is loud and there are people yelling at you, and just like the sports update anchor, or when I'm doing a commercial read, you got to just go. And so maybe that's just my nature. Like, I am not offended when people are loud, because number one, I am loud. Number two, I know, never. I have been taught how to just do the work and have tunnel vision. I understand not everyone is like that.
No, I mean, it's somewhat of an anomaly. So
it's the nature of the business.
It's courtesy. No cheering in the press box. If you want to cheer, if you want to actively cheer, buy a ticket. Or if you're Dan, or Dave, sorry.
We love Dave.
If you're Dave, just have the Jaguars hook you up with a ticket somewhere. like go into, I mean, and then he can react appropriately. And that's nothing against the man personally. It's nothing against him personally. I don't know. Maybe I'm old school. I told you, I got these grays.
I'm going to hook you up with Gene Fournette too. That's who our press box police or safety patrol officer.
I'm not going to sit here and be like, you shut up.
He does.
Like, I'm not going to sit here and do that. But
even Gene, because that's what he does to me. But even with Gene, like, he went up to Dave during the preseason and was just like, hey man, this is what it is. And that's all I wanted from the Giants media. Not being entitled New York media and having to be a keyboard warrior. You're better than that. I grew up reading all of you. You're better than that.
Now you're hitting buzz terms. Anyway, I'm just going to tee you up on this one. I'm going to show you a picture, and you just tell us what the hell's going on here. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
Oh, those were happier times, John. Those were so much happier times. That was back when Iowa didn't hand the son of the longtime head coach, the longest tenured head coach in the FBS, just the offensive coordinator job on a silver platter. And while, yes, Brian Ferentz had been the offensive line coach for several years, and he had coached under Bill Belichick, had no coordinator experience. Just, there you go. You can be the play caller now, bro. It's all good. And granted, they brought back Ken O'Keefe, who had been the offense coordinator for the first decade plus of Kirk Ferentz's tenure in Iowa City, to kind of mentor Brian. And now Ken has since gone off to bigger and better things. And by that, I mean retirement. But at the same time, yes, now Brian Ferentz remains the offense coordinator. He is actually the quarterback's coach for the first time ever this year, because O'Keefe left. And
so
Brian never played quarterback.
Why are people taking fault with this, Mia?
Because the Iowa offense is ranked 131st in the country, John, and they have 57 total points in conference play, and it's October 24th. They're awful. And they refuse to make changes when other teams in the Big Ten have not only made changes at the offense coordinator position, but at the head coaching position as well. And so,
So the word of the day is nepotism.
Yes. But here's the thing. I know you didn't get to visit me out there in Iowa when I lived out there. I think in Maine it's kind of similar but different. But which also, ironically, Kirk Ferentz used to coach at the University of Maine.
I did.
They operate in a bubble. This is many sports fan bases are like that.
That's a lot of power football conferences.
Right. It's a lot of college towns. They live, it's like New York. We call it 10 square miles surrounded by reality. It's a bubble. And in that bubble, the most powerful person in the state of Iowa is Kirk Ferentz. He is more powerful than even the athletic director at the University of Iowa, Gary Barta, who was also the chair of the College Football Playoff Committee a year ago. So the bigger issue at hand here is whether you talk to Brian or if you talk to Kirk Ferentz or if you talk to Gary Barta, the athletic director, the company line is, we don't do that mid-season. We will evaluate at the end of the year.
And that's just horse crap because we see teams around the country
Rutgers just did it.
Rutgers just did it.
Rutgers just did it. Wisconsin, up the road, 2.5 hours from Iowa City, fired their longtime head coach.
It's not to say that nepotism hasn't ever existed in sports before. It certainly has. But there are few occasions where it's this apparent that a change needs to be made and you have this significant conflict of interest. And what begs the question for me is, at what point do boosters put pressure and say, hey, a change needs to be made here? I don't care if you have to put your son in timeout, but something needs to happen.
Oh yeah. And that's the $1 million question. But again, that's where the bubble comes in. I tell it different context, but all different, fruit, but still fruit, apples and oranges. I was just telling my friends when they were here, they were asking, they were, noting how people know me and they know my voice from the radio and they know me from my time in local television. And they come up to me here in Jacksonville and they asked if it was like that in Iowa. And I said, quite frankly, no, because the nature of the Midwest, what they talk about, Iowa nice, Midwest nice, Minnesota nice, when you hear those terms, that is essentially code word in the nice way of saying passive aggressive, allowing things to bubble up until they burst. It's a very nice way of saying that. And I say that with all the most affection and love for my Midwest people. But that's what we are seeing here. They are going to sit back and wait. They're not going to speak out. People don't speak out of turn in the Midwest, especially in the state of Iowa.
Specifically.
Exactly. Correct. So you sit back and you wait your turn. And that's what we're seeing. And so if the Ferentzes and Gary Barta are saying that you have to wait until the season's over, then they're going to wait till the season's over. At the same time, they did make a quarterback change at halftime this weekend against Ohio State after Spencer Petras fumbled on his final play of the day, and then Alex Padilla threw a pick on the next play.
Let's say hypothetically a change is made. What might Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas dinner look like at the
I'm sure Kirk will write it off as his hand was forced. Can almost guarantee you. And Brian would understand that.
So it's not like, hey, Brian, can you pass the mashed potatoes? And
no, I think we were at
passive aggressively posted.
Yeah, I think we were at that place a little while ago, like a couple of years ago, maybe. Because Brian, like when I was covering the team in 2016, and that was before he was the full-fledged OC. There's a picture of him angrily riding a golf cart, like as a passenger with like this like 4-year-old pouty face. And before that happened, he had stormed out of the press box. Ironically, let's go back to press boxes. Had stormed out, was screaming, banging on walls because he was upset with how the play on the field was transpiring. That I can tell you firsthand. Kirk Ferentz had a very harshly worded conversation with his son after that because he did not appreciate that etiquette. But in light of not only recent events and his son now being, essentially second in command next to Phil Parker, the defensive coordinator, in light of everything that happened in 2020, in which, lest we forget, his truly Kirk Ferentz's lieutenant, Chris Doyle, the longtime strength and conditioning
coach. That's
what
I was referring to before. Yeah.
Yes. Well, so, that conversation, I won't reveal what I've been, things happen there, but Brian Ferentz was also implicated in many of those accusations and allegations, and he's still there. And now he has the worst offense in college football. And I don't know, but I think there's so much pressure now, John, that I don't think it would be awkward. I think if anything, Brian Ferentz is going to just take a nice job at the NFL level and say that, he wanted to return.
It was an upgrade. Gotcha.
Yes,
okay.
Exactly. That's what you're going to see. So let's keep an eye on our time, since obviously we're running a little bit short here. We still got a couple topics to hit.
We got one last one here, Mia. And last week we asked your niche predictions for the NBA, and I predicted that we'd see an all-time tank season. And
you did!
And I don't think it's intentional, but the Lakers are well on their way, and it's understandable as to why. They're shooting an unfathomably bad 21% from beyond the arc this year. Russell Westbrook, who is a Hall of Famer, by the way.
Oh, that's a bold statement. If I've heard one.
Yeah. I believe Russ is a Hall of Famer. But this is not a Hall of Fame run by him. I think
there's a couple Hall of Famers on that team. I just think they're past their prime.
Anthony Davis is hurt. LeBron is frustrated. Is this experiment with Russ and trying to get this super team together one more time, is this the biggest failed experiment in NBA history?
In NBA history? No, I would say a certain Nets-Celtics trade.
That's what I would say
also
as well.
Up there. I would say that's also up there.
I would say Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Jason Terry for the entire future of the Nets franchise is the worst failed experiment.
That only set the Nets back, a decade? Until they drop more money on two more questionable figures in Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. What a time.
James Harden's the one that really...
Oh, yeah, also, I can't forget Yoko Ono and all that. Now Ben Simmons, what fun.
Yeah.
A lot of questionable characters coming into Brooklyn these days. When you said last week that, you're like, maybe the Lakers are thinking Wembanyama, everyone wants to talk about how LeBron wants to play with Bronny Jr. And now it sounds like Bronny Jr. is going to go to college. I don't know which college. He may end up in the G League. I mean, I don't even think he cracks the top 50 right now in college rankings, but he's a top 100 player in the country. So, he'll go to an Ohio State. I'm not sure how much he'll play. I'm sure... If LeBron is still with the Lakers, though, they can arrange for a nice, little, even if he's a two-way player.
Yeah, two-way player.
They could arrange for him to come into the fold, and then LeBron gets flyer. Right, and then LeBron gets to live his dream of playing with his son, and that's admirable. But that's still 2 years away. So kind of like Mr. Rodgers and Brady. How much longer are you willing to put up with this beating and being the center of attention when everything around you is quite frankly failing? So I don't know. Especially in the Western Conference, where you are literally, it's the National Basketball Association. You're getting everyone's best shot every night. But in the Western Conference,
it's tough to win.
Yeah.
And I'll say this on top of that to give some credence to the argument that this might be the worst experiment. With that 2013 Nets team, they weren't a great team before that, and they made the move in hopes of getting better. The Lakers made that Russ move coming off a championship, hoping that this was going to propel them to even more.
A Mickey Mouse championship, but continue.
I totally disagree with that. I think the NBA bubble was the most difficult championship ever won. I legitimately think that was the most difficult championship ever won. The season went over a year. They were in solitary confinement. The wings were fantastic at Magic City. And I think that
I'm just looking at their roster right now. It's like, I just don't get it. Dennis Schroeder, you flamed out in Golden State. So did Juan. They actually liked Juan Toscano Anderson. Lonnie Walker.
It's a poorly constructed
Kendrick
roster.
Nunn. It's just like Patrick Beverly. We completely forgot the fourth member of their gang.
I do think there is an argument to be made that this could be one of the worst experiments ever. I think we have to wait until either there's a trade made or wait till the end of the season, whatever it may be. But I do think there is merit to that argument. And frankly, I don't think this is something that the Lakers are going to kick.
If they get Wembanyama, though.
No, I'm saying this year. I don't think this is.
So then if they have the number one pick and they get Victor, then is all forgotten.
I'm sure LeBron's licking his lips at something like that.
But even then, let's be real. And we talked about this last week with the NBA draft lottery. You can't guarantee that you are even going to get that number one overall pick. So.
But you do have assets that you could trade up for them. And
or you could just. That's the problem there, and they can't even trade off all these old assets that they have to get more picks.
No.
They can't even do that.
No.
So I think your way too early prediction last week, John. Spot on.
We'll see. Well, Mia, before we get to our weekly wager, we do have some breaking news here that I just want to give a quick shout out to because I know this is something that is deeply personal to both you and I.
Yes.
Deeply personal. Jim Nantz, following the next season, is going to be this coming March. I mean, this will be his last Final Four, and he will be succeeded by one Iron Eagle.
Wait, did it just get announced?
It just got announced. As we were on air.
My gosh, I was wondering why people were. Oh my!
Mia and I are from the Iron Eagle School of Broadcasting.
Stop.
And the Bird is our boy, so an honorary toast to the Bird.
Who tweeted out, CBS or Marchand?
New York Post reported.
Thank you, Andrew Marchand. Go Bombers.
So an honorary toast to our mentor here,
my
Mr.
goodness.
Bird.
Yes.
Mr. Bird, just cheers to him.
How fitting is this? We're together.
Cheers to the Bird.
Cheers to the Bird, man. We don't need a toast. We don't need a wager.
No, but I do have a wager for you for next week. Since you're very impassioned about this Iowa Hawkeyes team.
Yeah. Well, it's all right because Ithaca's offense is averaging 40+ points a week, so I'm also holding on.
I'm not making a wager on D3 football. But anyway, the over-under as of 2 hours ago for this Northwestern versus Iowa game, a 3-14 versus a 1-6.
Remember when I wanted to go to Northwestern, by the way? Continue.
No, you were wrong on that. The Wildcats currently an 11-point underdog. The over-under for the outing is 36.5 points, which would be
it's up.
Which would be one of the lowest that
I
we've
saw
seen
some
in a
sports
long
books
time.
had him at 31, which would be the lowest in FBS history.
But you are taking the under on this, correct?
Yes.
I'm giving you under 36.5. Send it here. Hard 36.5.
Yes, under.
I'll say Iowa just gets a lucky week and they go off and we go the over. I'm just going to take it for the sake of argument. And the wager is a little more pleasurable, but also it might not be. You and I both Wawa aficionados. If you don't know what Wawa is, it's the greatest convenience store that has a gas station attached to it in the history of history. Right here, I've got a half gallon of Wawa iced tea with me. Okay. Mia, next week, the loser of our weekly wager will have to drink an entire half gallon during the course of our program next week.
Okay. Easy money.
Okay.
Easy money.
A lot of sugar. It's awfully sweet.
Again, I did the Taco Bell challenge earlier this week, so anything.
An entire half gallon during the course of our conversation. Okay. And again, guys, we appreciate your support every single Monday night here, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, leading up to Monday Night Football. If you like pro wrestling, leading up to Monday Night Raw, whatever it may be that you watch on your Monday night, we got you here on Out of Bounds. Mia, anything else you want to throw out there this week?
Go Fighting Birds, not of the Hawkeye variety, the Iron Eagle variety.
The Iron Eagle variety. Cheers to that. We'll see you next week right here on Out of Bounds.